breaking ball hit well, deep to center. Roller going back, near the wall. This baby's gonna go! Troy Johnston has a 3-run bomb!
This is the Turn 2 podcast with Scott Kornberg and Troy Johnston.
Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of the Turn 2 podcast. I'm Scott Kornberg, joined by Troy Johnston. We've got something a little bit different today for you. So the season has begun. We want to start doing some live interviews with our guests throughout the minor league season. But for now, we wanted to catch up with an old friend. Robert Garcia pitched with the Jumbo Shrimp for the last couple of seasons, made his major league debut with the Marlins last year, and then was claimed off waivers by the Nationals. He had a great season in Washington to close the 2023 season, and congrats to Robert for making the Nationals opening day roster. Here's a great conversation with an old friend. All right, Robert Garcia is our guest today, left-handed pitcher for the Washington Nationals. He's an awesome story, guy we had in Jacksonville a couple of years, and was claimed by Washington when the Marlins tried to DFA him last year. And Robert, you've been able to stick in the bullpen. It's been great watching you. Awesome rookie season, and you're off to a really good start here in 2024. Thanks for joining us today. Has it hit you yet that you are not just a major leaguer, but on an opening day major league roster in DC?
Now it has. But it was a little nerve-wracking going to spring training. You're like, oh, you have opportunity to make your first opening day, but then the kind of when you start playing the game, the nerves settle down. And you're just playing the game again. So when Davey told me that I made opening day roster, I was pumped. It was exciting, and then finally getting out there, and then I don't know. There's something about being on a big league field that just makes me focus and be engaged a little bit more. So once I got through the first opening day, it was like, okay, it's just the game again, just like where I left off last year. So it's been good.
Your big league debut, I mean, it's a memorable day for a lot of reasons, right? But a lot of people consider Camden Yards to be one of the best, if not the best ballpark. When you rewind to that day, and you got the call actually in Charlotte when we were on the road, Troy and I are in Durham right now. So when you rewind to that day, what comes to mind of making that major league debut for the Marlins, not the Nationals?
What comes to mind is like obviously Camden Yards, cool place to debut. It's still, I think, one of my favorite places. I've played there twice already. It's one of my favorite parks to pitch in. But it was exciting. A lot of it's just a flashback of all the hard work I put in. And then it was a big day for my wife and I because she's been through this journey with me too. So she understands all the hard work, the ups and downs, the times where it wasn't going great, and the times where it was going great. Kind of all those come into fruition, and then you get to make your major league debut. And so I sat in the bullpen for 11 days, hoping to go in, and didn't really happen. So until I think it was the 11th day, which was kind of a good thing, and to my advantage is like I got to be around the environment a little longer. Like some guys get thrown in the fire from the moment they step off that plane. So that helped. But it was definitely a cool moment, and just kind of soaked it all out.
Who was your first phone call? Like right away when you got told the news, Brownie brought you into the office, told you were going up. Who was your very first phone call?
My first phone call would have been my mom, but I actually went outside to tell my wife because she was at the stadium. So she was traveling with us, and my wife and my daughter were traveling with us in Charlotte, and so I just got to go outside right out the stadium and tell her, which that was really cool. And then the phone call, I called my mom on the phone, which was awesome. But yeah, I was covered in baby powder and all that stuff when I went to go tell my wife. So it was a funny story, but yeah, it was awesome. Sure.
What was her reaction to it?
Why do you have baby powder all over your face? And then she realized I kind of took her back after a while because it's been a long time. We were waiting for this call for a long time. So when I told her, I was like, yeah, I'm going to Miami, and she was like, wait, what? I was like, yeah, I am. It's just like, oh, and then it kind of sunk in. But yeah, it was cool. It was cool to be able to tell her in person. That meant a lot.
You guys go back to when you were in college. You told me some stories when we were in various airports, I think, last year,
Uh-huh.
going to AAA cities, and he was a water polo player, I believe, right? At UC
Yeah,
Davis.
she
So
was.
how did you guys meet? Like, can you tell us that story?
Well, UC Davis is kind of like a school where kind of like the athletes stick together in their own little bubble. And so we had a lot of like all athlete meetings that we would all go to. And then we also lived together. Like we lived in the same dorm complex. Um, and so she also we had like cross paths because obviously being athletes, you kind of everybody knows each other. And then, yeah, that's honestly how we met. And a lot of times, like we would see each other, like because there was only one laundry room in this dorm complex, and it conveniently happened that we were always doing laundry at the same times for a couple months, and so we got talking there. But yeah, it's UC Davis is kind of a small school when it comes to the athlete side, so it was easy to get to know each other.
So when you say doing laundry at the same time, were you the one planning out? Were you like waiting and you would do laundry every single time? Was she the one that would like plan it out? Because clearly, it's never actually at this. Somebody always has a plan, and they're always trying to execute a
Yeah.
plan. So were you the one that was trying to do laundry same day, same time, hoping to see her? Was it the other way around?
I don't know. I honestly think I do a lot of laundry when I wasn't married. I was doing laundry all the time because I don't really wear things twice. I always wash it. So
What a good
uh
husband.
yeah. So I think I was just there, honestly. I wasn't really planned, I wouldn't say.
Mm.
But yeah.
So then it was the other side. She was planning.
Yeah, it was the other day. She was
Yeah.
planning.
Could be. You never know. I have to ask
So
for that.
we had when I was in Myrtle Beach, David Bodie was there, a guy who's played with the Cubs, and he thought about retiring a lot, he said, and his wife pushed him to keep going through a lot of difficult journeys. And maybe both of you guys could speak to this. Being in the minor leagues is hard, and for you guys,
Mhm.
both Troy, you're right on the cusp. Robert, it took a long time. Can you like, was there moments where you thought about, I'm done, I'm over baseball, and David talked a lot about his wife pushing him to keep going. Do you feel like that with your wife, Robert, that she's played a big hand in getting you where you are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just kind of the same thing. She's been there from ups and downs, and the cool thing about I guess our relationship is that she was an athlete at one point. She does understand what it's like to fail, what it's like to succeed. So like she has a perspective that like I guess many other wives probably don't have. Um, so there's times where I have bad outings, and we sit down, we talk about it, but it's there's been times in my career where yeah, I went up to her. I was like, babe, I'm done. Like, I don't know if I can go anymore. I'm over this. Like, this is like BS. Like, things don't go your way. Like, there's a lot of life lessons that you can learn in the minor leagues, and I like it. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes timing is the issue. Sometimes, there's one or two things that you just need one guy to like you up there. You know what I mean? You just don't know. And I think that's the toughest part, I think, as a minor leaguer is to understand that, like, the only thing that you can control are the things on the field. And, like, that's the hardest thing when you step off the field and you're like, wait, why am I still here? Why am I still in the minor leagues? And, like, you think of it over and over and over, but, like, at the same time, like, you can only do one thing, and that's what you can do on the field. And then everything out, you have to just be okay with. And I think, like I said, that's the hardest part. But my wife definitely was somebody who, like, put the true life and perspective into my head of like what this truly means to play baseball at this level and to continue to play baseball at 27 years old. And I think some things like that like really helped me like move on from the time I did like I think after the 21 season is the one I wanted to retire. And when I did want to retire in 21, she backed me up. She said, "Okay, if this is what you want to do and you're 100% in this, you're going to do it on your own. I'm going to stay out of this. It's not me. I want you to do this when you feel comfortable. So if you're ready to go next season, we're ready to go. But if you're not, then be 100% or be all out." And then when I was Rule 5 by the Marlins, that was kind of like, hey, here's another opportunity that you have in a different organization where you can prove yourself. Do you still have the drive to come back and and go through a full season and give it your all? And then we kind of talked, and we were like, maybe this is God telling us, like, hey, like, you're not done yet. You still have an opportunity. You still have another chance. Um, just focus on and control the things you control. And like that was the biggest thing when I went to Miami was like, okay, I know how good I am. I know what I can do. Now let's just have the mindset of let's control what we control on the field, and whatever happens, happens. We had nothing to lose at that point because we had already, in my mind, I already spent 3 months in office. You know what I mean? Like I got to experience what it was like to be on the other side, which many guys don't experience that. So there's always that, oh, what if I, was able to just go work a normal job and stuff like that. Like I got to see it. So like for me, that was honestly a blessing for my career is because like I knew what it was like to be on the other side and I knew what it's like to be in baseball. So it's like, okay, I know this is what I want to do. I gave it 100%. And then, 2 years later, I made my debut, which was very special for my family.
That gave me like goosebumps. If you're a minor leaguer listening to this and you are at the lower levels, the higher levels, whatever it is, that is the epitome of what every minor league mindset should be. You can't be half in, half out. You have to be 2 feet in. You have to be, I mean,
Mm.
that's, I know when I'm struggling, that's my mantra too, is you have to be all in with whatever you want to do. And even at 27, 28, 21, 19, whatever it is, like that message that you're bringing to the table, like that is it. That is
Yeah.
what everybody should be focusing on because there's only so many things like you said, we can't control. It's business. They've
Yeah.
got plans that you have no idea about. There's all these things. The only thing you can control is what you can control. Control the
I think
control.
another thing to piggyback off that, like the biggest lesson I've learned in the last 2 years is that like, or 3 years, you never, and I spent 5 years before with the Royals, and I didn't get to see what it was like to be on the other side. And the last 3 years, I've been with two different organizations. And the biggest advice I can give to any young guys, like you'd never know who's watching. I've been with two different organizations outside of my first one that I have said, hey, we've been watching you for a while. We've been watching you for a while. We've been waiting for this opportunity to get you. Like that shows you that like you're not just competing for that one organization that you're with. You're competing for the other 29 also. And it sounds cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. And I think that like we've heard that when we came up, in our younger days in the minor leagues, like, oh, you're playing for multiple organizations. Oh yeah, maybe so, but no, it's true. It really is. So I think that's another like a big lesson that I learned was, you never know who's watching. You can make an impression. You can go face a team 6 times in spring training and do really well against them, and shoot, you're on their radar. So it's a big. There's a lot of opportunities that I think sometimes in our mind as players we miss that fact that okay, like this is a huge opportunity. Um, you know, so that's just how I see it.
How many times do you have to? Is there some kind of because you seem very balanced, and I guess when we played together, which of course did we
Mm-hmm.
play together in was it 23 or was it 22?
22 and 23.
Yeah, it was both. You seem very balanced with everything that you do. Is there some kind of like mental skills, technique that you use? Is there anything that because you seem very grounded and very and maybe it's just experience, but is there something like
Mm-hmm.
that that you kind of take off the field in a sense?
Um, there's the only mental part that the one thing I've always struggled with was not taking outings home and not taking it to the next day. That's something that I really, really struggled with. Um, but understanding and being and getting through full seasons, especially when you get to like the upper levels in the minor leagues, you get to AAA, like yeah, you can have one bad month, you can have a bad outing here and there, but like they don't, no one's judging you based on your one outing or your one time you give up, you blow the lead or something like that. There's a reason why we play 162 games. The best guys get through 162. Some guys can have great months, and yeah, that's great, but the consistent over 162 is what we play. And so I feel like understanding that this is a marathon, not a sprint, really helps me be grounded. For example, last night I gave up I came in a 2-run ball game in the 6th inning, left on left, threw a slider, gave up a home run, got the next guy out, and then was pulled shortly after. It's like, yeah, it's not a great outing. Yeah, I got the hold. But at the same time, like I know, like, okay, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We learn from the mistakes that we make and we move on. If we let things snowball, that's hard to come back from, but letting things go is a powerful it's a powerful attribute, I think, in baseball, because you play so much, especially like you, Troy, like your position play, you play every single day. If you're gonna harp on it, if you went 0 for 4 for 2 days straight and you were just like, and that's all you focused on, it's gonna snowball. But like if you just forget about it and understand that, oh, I'm gonna be out there tomorrow, and then you can really just flip the script easily. And especially early on. Like early on, it's like, okay, we're trying to build we're trying to build as much quality so we can make up for those times when we get tired and we do have an over 4 day, or it's just not clicking or something. Everybody's season has some kind of ups and downs. There's no one's going to be perfect throughout a whole season. I don't care who you are. You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, it's just about understanding, like, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You got to stay even killed. You can't be too high. You can't be too low. It's just how it is.
It's almost like a good message for even outside of baseball. But let's be honest, after that, I have goosebumps because if I don't go 5 for 5 with 5 home runs tonight, we're gonna have to talk.
Robert,
We
you
will.
talked about you weren't when you realized you weren't performing just for the Royals, you were performing for 29 teams. I think the other organizations you've been in, there's been light bulbs there. Jesse Doherty at the Washington Post wrote a really good article about you, about Scott Aldred, the Marlins pitching coordinator, and finding out that your changeup is an elite pitch. What was that conversation like with him? And maybe now that you've gone to DC, have there been any other light bulbs that have turned on about your game that maybe the Nationals saw that the Royals and Marlins did not?
Um, so when it comes to the changeup, my changeup when I was at the Royals, like I was kind of told not to, like we talked about, not to really throw it as much. It wasn't going to be a plus pitch. It was okay. Um, there was no analytical data on that. That was the eye test. And so and I kind of put it in the back pocket, they did mention something like, hey, if you're going to be a lefty reliever, you got to have a good breaking ball. Didn't have a good slider at the time, which I 100% agree with. So that's why I focused on. It took me years and years and years. But what I come to now is that, like, this is the good part about analytics in the game, is that, like, it took me 4 years to develop an average slider. That's how I look at it. And it literally took me less than 6 months to develop a slider that is going to grade above 55. So a plus slider in my mind. My plus slider, it took me from going average to plus, it took me 6 months. And with analytics and, like, the ability to understand what you're doing and what you're trying to do is powerful. And I think that's something that the analytical data can show us. And it's a tool for development. Yes, people use it to grade you, but again, that's something that's out of your control. You're using it to develop you. And then when it comes to the changeup, when I got to Miami, yeah, Scott was like, yeah, this is really good. Like, why aren't you throwing this? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I feel like everybody's late on my fastball. I just go to my fastball. I go to a slider. And then he was like, no, like, I'm going to force you to start throwing it. And once that happened, and once he started, like, making me throw it, he's like, I need this to be it. I think the number was like 22% usage. So I started throwing it. Then I realized, like, oh shoot, this is the weapon. This is a lot easier now. I have a changeup that I can go do, not just fastball slider. Now I'm creating the actual triangle that I want to create in the middle of the zone. And so yeah, and then when I got to Washington, I claimed to Washington. They literally told me my first day, David brought me in the office and said, "Hey, we want you to use your changeup. We love your changeup. We thought it was great. We've been watching you for a while. It's a plus pitch." And then as the time's gone on of me using it with the Nationals, they're like, "Oh, this is elite. uh, this is the elite changeup." And then uh, other things that they've noticed is like, okay, like your fastball, it may say 95 on the board, but it's not playing at 95. It plays at 97. Like these guys, no one can catch up to it. Like there's a lot of deception that you can't tell analytically, that you have to watch with your eyes and understand. Like, this fastball is really good. And then they've kind of just told me like, hey, your fastball plays really well, changeup's elite, your slider's good. This is what we need to tweak. And then some things that we tweaked with my slider was that like we noticed that like when I had negative vertical movement on my slider, it was getting a significantly, I was like over 50% more swing and miss than the ones that had zero or positive vertical movement. And so from that point, we just try to replicate all of them to have negative vertical movement, and what we need to do with, the hand and how I release it, and timing is a big one. And then from there, that's kind of how I've been developed to this point, really.
What kind of, like, when you talk about analytics, are there numbers you pay more attention to than others?
For my changeup, the only numbers I really care about is vertical movement. Horizontal movement, I think it doesn't really matter. I think that's for a lot of people that horizontal, like for me, how my changeup plays, I need it to go down before it goes horizontal. So I want to have, as long as I'm not throwing it, above 3. Usually it sits about 0 to 1 positive, and there's sometimes I'll get it to like -3. Those are really good. But if it's not above +3, then we're good. And that's something I look at as my benchmark. My separation is a big one between my fastball vertical and my changeup vertical. As long as it's, I like to be within 14. Is that's the 14's the separation, and we're talking like that's big time elite movement of separation. But usually mine is mainly vertical. Horizontal is kind of irrelevant to me. Same with the fastball. I'm looking at vertical. I'm looking at vertical when it comes to changeup. I'm looking at vertical when it comes to the slider. Horizontal is really irrelevant. Spin rate's irrelevant. Tilt and axis of how you release the ball, sometimes you look at, but for me, really no. I just try to trust the fact that I'm going to repeat it. But yeah, other than that, that's really the main one is the vertical.
So there's been a huge shift, of course, in baseball towards the analytics, towards all of that, especially with places like Cressy, Driveline, like, these training places that all these big leaguers, high school, sometimes even little league will go and train at these places. How big of an impact do you think that this analytics has had on, one, your career, and two, baseball? Because of course, there's a lot of people that are against analytics, against doing all this stuff. A lot of people that are for it. Like, do you think that positively or negatively it's affected your career?
Oh, I think it's positive affected my career. Honestly, I wish I had it a lot sooner. Just to understand, like it's the easiest way to understand who you are. In my opinion, like you can really develop a comp that you would never find with the eyes. Like, player comps, when I was in the minor leagues, player comps were like, for me, it was like something I can watch and put myself in their shoes, watch their highlight videos and be like, okay, like this is how my fastball plays. Maybe they have a slider and I have a curveball. There's some differences with player comps, but like it's easy to find that way if you can just go on analytical data and be like, okay, let's compare you to someone else. Also, analytics, allowing you to develop understanding who you are. It's huge in my opinion. I don't know why someone wouldn't get in it, but it also, in my opinion, could be very dangerous because if you don't know what you're doing, I've been to I've had people tell me like, hey, your fastball on your fastball is like 15 inches. It's very flat. And I usually laugh at them because like there's a lot more that goes into it. There's the vertical approach angle, and that's a lot of people like you have to know the full picture. You like we talked about. You have to be 100% in. If you're not 100% in, you're not going to know the full picture, and you're going to miss a lot of variables. And I'm not perfectly analytic. I'm trying to learn still every day. Like there's a lot of stuff, but there's people that around me, especially with the Nationals, that have a lot of really really good idea of analytics, and they know it from the back of their hand. So like I trust in those guys, and I go to them for the information. But sometimes like if especially I've seen this with the younger generation and the younger kids, like you guys, bringing in TrackMan to an eighth grader. It's like, yeah, I get what you mean, but like there's a certain level where you need analytics, and there's a certain level where you can just push it away. And I think that's something where baseball is going to have to find like when's the right time. Because honestly, if with video analytics, the science that we have in baseball, kids in high school are throwing 95. It's going to be the new norm. It already is the new norm. Kids in college are going to be throwing 95 to 100. There's a new generation of baseball that's coming up it's going to be insane. Something that we've never seen. Like when I was in high school, if you were left-handed and you hit above 90, you were getting drafted. That's as simple as that. So now it's like, no, you're maybe a D1 guy. Obviously there's some other things that have to go into it, but it's just crazy how much the analytics has changed and improved the game. And I think it's done that so well that it's hard for the game to go back and say, okay, analytics wasn't good. Analytics is always going to be there. It's the new norm. It's going to always be there. You have stadiums like New York they have vertical approach, or they have vertical and horizontal numbers on the scoreboards. Like it's here. So I don't think that it'll ever go away. I don't think it ever should, honestly, my opinion.
All right, I'm going to piggyback off of that. Robo umps, non-robo umps, challenge system. What would you prefer? What would you like to see in the big leagues? Because realistically, a lot of people are asking for it. So what do you think as a big league pitcher should be added, taken away? If anything, don't change a thing.
In my opinion, it's not ready. We're definitely not ready. From what I saw in AAA last year, it was horrible. Like that was bad. I saw guys, that would come in, ride guys that would try to hit the top of the zone and have zero room for error because there was zero top of the zone. You have a guy that's 6'5" and the top of the zone's below his belt. Like that's ridiculous. And that can't happen in the big leagues. That would easily be axed out of there. But in my opinion, if you're going to have the robot umps, make the zone three-dimensional, and whatever you do, make sure it's adjusted to the player's height. Actual height. Not everybody like, I think it was in 22, they tried to take everybody's height, and you look at the scoreboard and everybody's 5'11". But the other seasons, everybody thought they were 6'2". So I said, don't let people pick. Go and measure everybody if that's what you're going to do. And you can make the, automated zone, but it's got to be good. It's got to be an actual zone. The zone's three-dimensional. The zone is from below the letters down to the knees. Go back to the robot. Look at it. So, I think that to me it's far away from the big leagues. I think the challenge system, I don't like because they're already trying to they took away 2 more seconds on the clock in the big leagues. So they can shorten games from 2 hours and 45 minutes to 2 hours and 30 minutes. And you think having a robo umpire it's just going to reverse what you just did. I think that's going to take more time in the game. And I think we're just contradicting ourselves at that point. Like, what do we want? I already think, in my opinion, I think taking away the 2 seconds was huge advantage on a base runner. I think that as a pitcher in this, in spring training and even this year, like it's quick. It really is quick now. Especially when, you have guys that take forever to get in the box. they're using all their seconds until they get to 8, and then you have pretty much 8 seconds to 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 hold runners. If you maybe can mix in a third look, but pretty much if you look twice, they're bouncing off, they're going. It's that part is tough, and when you have 8 seconds and you get on a mound, and to not be in a pattern where you're pitching at the same second every time, it's very difficult to do. You know, um, I just think that a lot of these changes, I get why they're making them, but like at some point we gotta just understand, like, hey, the game's the game. It's gonna take 3 hours. Sorry about it.
Robert, Nationals to young team, you guys have a lot of guys who are kind of like you, like in the very beginning of their major league careers. What's the clubhouse dynamic of that? Because you guys aren't necessarily expected to compete with the Braves or the Phillies in the division. And yet there's a lot of talented guys coming up the system. Like, do you find yourselves like it's a similar look on life in the major league so far? Or do you find yourself maybe gravitating towards a veteran like a Patrick Corbin or something like that? Like, what's that dynamic been like for you early in your big league career, just with the clubhouse vibes there?
Clubhouse vibes have been great. It's when I first got there last year, it was really easy to uh, insert my way into this clubhouse with being a new guy coming in. Obviously, like I never spent time in AAA. When I came up with them, they sent me straight to the big league. So um, at first, I feel like you kind of just earn everybody's respect. You do your rookie duties. You do the same things you do. Um, and then I think once I started, pitching a lot, and everybody knows, okay, this guy's a big part of our bullpen, it was easy to gain respect. But from a whole, I feel like um, everybody had the fight to win. I feel like, yeah, last year it was really weird because when I came into clubhouse, I was like everybody was it was a great clubhouse, honestly. Like we were winning games. We went on a tear when I first got there, and I just looked around and I was like, how are we under 500? Like, this team's good. Like, we were tearing it up. And and then, I think that it's been really easy. Like, we have a lot of really good veterans that have taken guys on our wings. And then this year, it's been cool because there's only 2 guys in their 20s in our bullpen. Everybody else is older. So we have a pretty veteran bullpen this year, and I think that I'm really excited for that this year because I want to be able to be, being only like I'm the only rookie in there in the bullpen, and being the only rookie in the bullpen, I think it's going to be I guess a special thing for me because I can insert myself and learn from these veterans, but also like I don't want to be able to think of myself as a rookie. I guess I would say I want to be able to be like, okay, no, I'm part of this bullpen. I'm a veteran. I'm not a veteran guy, but I'm a part of this team and a part of this bullpen. I don't want to think of myself, oh, I made a mistake because I'm a rookie. No, I want to get better, learn from these guys, and learn from them every single day. And I feel like the best thing to do is be around them all the time. And it's, sometimes when you have bullpens where it's like half of them are veterans, half of them are young guys, and they kind of separate, you know what I mean? But this bullpen, it's like, okay, I'm the only young guy. So I just, insert myself and get to talk to and learn to these guys. We have Dylan Floro, we have Kyle Finnegan, Hunter Harvey, Matt Barnes, who's been around for a while. So like getting to learn from those guys, I think is going to be a huge for me this year. And I'm really excited about that. We also have Sean Doolittle as a coach this year, which is also a very, very huge thing for me because he's been one of the best lefty relievers to ever do it. So learning from him I'm definitely blessed for that for sure.
So you named some former Marlins that are, of course, on the Nationals now. Does that make it like, and even with the addition of, Nasim, does that make it a little bit more comfortable for you that you can like talk to those guys about like shared experiences that you guys had both coming from the Marlins?
A little bit, yeah. Honestly, my time in the big leagues with the Marlins was very short, so there's not many experiences that I had, but it was nice because I had familiar faces coming in, and they all kind of knew me. Um, so that part was an easy mesh. And then last year, spending the last 2 months in the big leagues, I got to know all the other guys from the Nationals. So it's like it's not like I didn't really meet anybody new. It was like guys I already knew. So um, it was an easy transition for sure.
Troy, I think it's game time here.
It's game time. All right. So I like to play different games on this. We have a leaderboard and all this different stuff. I believe, is it Lavarnway's leading? I think
Still Ryan LeVarn way.
This
Thank you.
baseball trivia.
Yep, baseball trivia.
Uh,
How do
I
you
knew it.
how do you feel with baseball trivia?
Very, very subpar for me.
All right. So I have this game made up. It's called Plate Appearance. All right. So I'm going to give you 10 different questions, and it goes kind of in like a, baseball standpoint. The first question is going to be worth a single. Second question is going to be worth a double. Third question is going to be worth a triple. Then it goes back to a single. If you get all the way to the 10th question, or if I feel like you need something, I'll give you a home run question. The home run question is about me or Scott.
Okay.
But other than that, it's going to play like we're playing like wiffle ball. You have to move the runner. Don't expect it to be like a James Wood who's going to take, on a single, might score first, something
Yeah.
like that. You're going to have to push them, so, one by one.
All
So,
right.
do you think you're ready?
Yeah, let's try it.
All right. So, question for a single, and this is from last year. Who is the 2023 strikeout leader in the MLB?
2023 strikeout leader in MLB. Oh, strikeout leader. Oh, is it Garrett Cole?
No, Spencer Strider.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
We'll have to bleep that out. It's okay. Beep.
Yeah.
All right.
That was a lot easier than I thought it would be.
I'm not trying to like confuse you. I'm doing my
No,
best.
I know. I was just trying to think.
All right. So you have one out. We're gonna give you 3 outs. But you got 1 out right now. Okay, this one's a little bit tougher. This one's for a double. All right. When was the first World Series held?
When?
When?
What year?
What year? I'll give you a +1, -1 if you can get it. So if you're above by 1 or below by 1, I'll give it to you.
First World Series. It's not like football. I can't just count back. 1923.
You missed it by 20. It was 1903.
Oh,
Yeah, that was a good guess.
Like I said, I'm feeling interesting. All right, so for a home run, we're just gonna skip the triple altogether. So
Yeah,
for a
home runs,
home run, we'll give you 1. Where is Scott's birth state? Where was Scott born? What state?
Oh, I think he's told me this.
I think I have too.
How good is his memory? How many concussions has he not had?
New Jersey. No?
It's New York. You were
Grew up
so
in New Jersey.
Put the other
We were
dude.
very close.
Did you move to New Jersey at all?
I moved to New Jersey when I was 5, or maybe a little younger.
Scott, why did you tell me that? You should have said New York the whole time.
All right, well, Rob, thank you for playing our game. That's 3 up, 3 down.
Yeah.
I know as a pitcher, you love that. So
Oh, yeah.
Great.
It's great. It's great for Rob. 3 up. 3 down. We'll give it. Maybe we're throwing 1 punchy in there, something like that.
Yeah,
But
I prefer 2. 2 or more.
Sorry, 2 punchies. My fault. 2 punches and a rollover. Well, Rob, we really appreciate you spending this last hour with us. You have been unbelievable with your answers. They've been very thorough, and I really hope that anybody's watching this, whether you're a minor leaguer, a parent or somebody that knows a minor league or somebody that wants to play professional baseball, take something away from this, because what you've talked about, being 2 feet in, being pretty much all in, everything like that, flipping the script, all these key words that you were using about how hard this life is, how long and difficult the journey can be for some, and how to just keep grinding. I really hope that people take that as inspiration just as much as I have. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys for having me.
Thanks, Robert. So that's Robert Garcia, and that is the Turn 2 podcast. I want to thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Again, we are still building this podcast, so if you liked what you heard, please rate and review us. That's how we can grow. And for now, talk to you in a couple of weeks. Thanks, everybody.
And that's the ball game. Thanks for listening to this episode of Turn 2 Podcast with Scott and Troy. A huge thanks to Ken Babby, Harold Craw, Linda McNabb, Noel Blaha, Matt Goodrow, David Ratz, Gillian Bay, and the rest of the Jumbo Shrimp staff for their continued support.